or embarrassment, and it's difficult for them to talk about it. Another area that has psychological meaning for boys is the development of secondary sex characteristics such as growth of facial and body hair. Some cultures, even growing in mustaches, considered a form of masculinity, so it's kind of interesting to look at cultural aspects as well. So it's an important thing to note that the environment here plays an integral role in the attainment of one's growth potential. There's also a secular growth trend, which is a decrease in time in the average age of which physical maturation takes place. And the reasoning for this is changes in hygiene, nutrition, healthcare. All these environmental things and societal things contribute to an earlier entry into puberty and growth. One of the consequences is that adolescents may find themselves in potentially high-risk situations at a very young age, maybe more susceptible to such things as drug and alcohol abuse. An early onset of puberty can be too much too soon for adolescents sometimes, and for girls it can be especially stressful, resulting in heightened self-consciousness and even anxiety. Next thing I want to talk about is how after puberty, girls and boys show different levels of aggression and depression, with girls showing more problems coping with depression and boys showing more problems managing and controlling their aggressive impulses. Problems and conflicts during this description are called internalized or externalized. Internalized, they turn the conflicts inward on themselves, and it can lead to feelings of helplessness and worthlessness. Externalized problems, on the other hand, they direct them outward onto other people and maybe even property, and this can lead to aggression and even delinquency. Example of internalized problems, obviously, some of the eating disorders that we learned about in this chapter. Some examples of externalized or delinquency, like I mentioned. One particular eating disorder I want to talk about is anorexia nervosa. It's one example found primarily in girls around 18 years old and is characterized by fear of gaining weight, refusal to maintain minimally normal body weight, and perceptions of one's own weight as over in general. And people with this disorder tend to have a distorted image of body, and they see themselves as much fatter than they really are. On the other hand, bulimia, separate eating disorder, is binge and overeating, followed by the use of different strategies to prevent the absorption of the food, such as vomiting, laxatives, strenuous exercise. Individuals with bulimia are usually ashamed of their eating and often eat in secret, and this can be followed by self-criticism and even depression. While the origins of these eating disorders are not fully understood, a combination of peer, parent, and media idealization of thinness coupled with a tendency for girls to experience body dissatisfaction during puberty all contribute. Very much. Now I want to move on to depression, and this is one emotion that gets a lot of attention during this period. Could be strongly correlated too with these eating disorders. When it's referring to the mood state, it coincides with feelings of sadness, loss of hope, a sense of being overwhelmed by the demands of the world, general unhappiness, and can be mild to severe in adolescence. It appears to peak in these kids about 17 to 18 years, and many areas can contribute to an elevated level of depression in adolescence, such as loss or rejection of a parent, the family's economic stresses, and physical changes in their appearance. Adolescents are also exposed to more negative events than younger children, and because more is expected of them, consequently they worry more and there's more potential for stress. School also becomes much more demanding here, and there is a selection or rejection into teams, clubs. I think it's important here to note that often adolescents are relatively inexperienced in coping with these kinds of stresses, and that they can become convinced that they're incompetent, and the distortion of thought can lead to social withdrawal and even self-destructive actions. It's important to look at depression because it has a strong correlation with suicidal thoughts. Girls are more prone to depression for a couple different reasons. One being the menstrual cycle causing stress in their mood. Girls become more critical of their bodies, and they tend to look within for more explanations of their failures and problems than boys. They're also more sensitive to problems and people in their support network. So these things have more caring, a higher level of caring, and are involved more, so it means more. And they're also more exposed to sexist views, which can diminish their view of themselves and possibly their status. Overall, depression and mood during early adolescence is a big concern of its association with suicidal thoughts, like I said. It could also have a negative effect on the kid's performance in school, and further could be a big predictor or forerunner of later depression further into their adulthood. Yeah, that's pretty much it, and I want to thank y'all for listening. The handout has all this information in it. I know it was a whole bunch, so you can kind of pick out little pieces from that, and yeah, thanks for listening. I'll see you guys next class period.